channel. Today I'm going to be doing something that I'm going to name the Planty Awards. And every year I'm going to do my best to upload at the beginning of the new year all my Planty favorites from the year before. So this year we're doing the Planty Awards for 2022. Basically I'm going to go through all my different types of plants, and in each category I will pick out 3 of my favorites, and then like the winner, number 1, the one in first place for my favorite plant of 2022. Anyway, I have a lot to get through, so I am going to go ahead and start. Starting off with the category Philodendron. My top 3 picks for this category is going to be my Philodendron Melanochrysum. And I picked this guy because it's been very hardy. It hasn't lost any leaves since I've gotten it. It's also not really growing a whole lot, but there is a kind of little bit of growth pushing out at the top right now. So it hasn't done a whole lot, but it also hasn't died on me. So I'm gonna say that that's a win right there. And I just love the huge velvety leaves and the way it looks on the pole and climbs up. It's just so beautiful. I really love the dark green leaves. Moving on to the second. Next up is going to be Philodendron mammii. And once again, I'm just going to reiterate that my favorite things in plants is big pillowy leaves, velvet leaves, and dark green beautiful foliage. And the mammii has like the Sauderai, the really pretty silvery highlights through it. It's big, it's pillowy, the fuzzy petioles I love. There's just so much good about this plant. I really had a toss-up between this one and Sauderai versus a Gloriosum, putting Gloriosum in there, just because, again, Gloriosum, it has that really beautiful, soft, pillowy leaves, but I do think my preference is the Sauderai and the mammii. Next up for Philodendron is going to be this Philodendron, this heartleaf Philodendron that is variegated. This is definitely among my top favorite all across all categories plant of 2022. I love this variegated plant. I've been wanting one for a really long time, but I wasn't willing to pay the really big price tag on it, so I waited and I got this tiny little 3-leaf cutting that I was super happy with, but I got it at a really great price, and I am super happy with it. It's been growing like crazy, and I cannot wait to propagate some more little pots of it. It's super easy. It's putting out aerial roots. There's just nothing that can go wrong with this plant. First place Philodendron is going to be this heartleaf Philodendron variegata, and it's definitely my favorite across all categories, or one of my top favorites across all categories, but it's definitely at the top of my list when it comes to the Philodendron category. Next up, we are going to jump into the category of anthuriums. This was a no-brainer for me. I'm going to throw in the Anthurium crystallinum that I have. It puts out so much new growth all the time. Oh my god, I'm so in love with it. The leaves are gorgeous. They come in kind of a different color and then they transition to green. I love watching with anthuriums when new leaves come in, how they grow over time as they harden off and they kind of increase in size. I've loved watching mine grow. And I love the sparkly veins in the leaves. It kind of looks like a turtle shell. There's just so much good about this plant. It's so easy. It hasn't died off at all, even though my care for quite a while was very neglectful. It's been totally fine, hasn't died off at all. Next up is going to be Anthurium veitchii, or King Anthurium. And this is my little seedling that I have had for a while, and it's been upsizing quite a bit. I mentioned this guy in quite a few of my recent videos, and that's because I am so in love with it. I refound a love for it when I pulled it out of the prop box and saw the new leaves and how big, how they upsized, and there's a new leaf coming out now, so I'm really excited to see that guy. I do have the oldest leaf kind of starting to die off now. I want to get it back into a more humid environment to keep the growth going, but I cannot say good enough things about this little plant. It has done so well with so little care. This is just a seedling, but if you Google the full-size plants, it's really cool to see how the shape and the divots in the leaves change over time. I kind of want to get a more mature one this year sometime, like a really big one. They're one of my favorite plants. The King Anthurium and Queen Anthurium, or Anthurium War Queen, are definitely at the top of my favorite Anthurium. Next up is this cool, unique little Anthurium catacoense. Now, these are incredibly special plants because they've actually are going extinct in the wild due to climate change and poaching. Human involvement has been very detrimental to this plant, so we are seeing a very steady decline in its existence in the wild, which is really unfortunate. It is more widely available now in the houseplant collecting community. They are grown now in captivity. They are pretty tricky. Out of all the Anthuriums that I've owned, they are definitely on the pickier side. They want really, really high humidity. They don't like a lot of warmth. They want to be more on the colder side or cooler side. I shouldn't say cold because they don't want to be cold, but they like to be on the cooler side. So it's not always your plant room, which is full of tropicals, isn't always the best place to keep it. I actually keep mine in a separate room usually that doesn't get as hot because I know it does prefer those cooler temperatures. But yeah, it's a beautiful plant. It's just a little bit more fussy. If you can meet its care needs, then you will love this plant. I also love it because the leaves remind me of little raptor claws, which, if you know me at all, you will know I am obsessed with all things dinosaur. Next up is going to be the category of alocasia. Now, I don't keep many alocasia just because we don't get along well. Alocasia Pink Princess. And this is actually the variegated form, and it's one of my favorites currently just because I did find the variegated form. So I would say that that's definitely at the top of my list. I love the pink stems. I love how vibrant the stems are on it. I'm actually going to separate it. One thing I really like about alocasia is that they put out little bulbs that you can propagate from and grow baby alocasia. So I'm really excited to actually do that to my Pink Princess alocasia. Next up on my list for alocasia is probably going to be Alocasia cooperi. I don't actually own one of these guys, but they're so alien looking that I honestly just love the way the leaves look. They're very alienish. They don't look like any other plant I can think of. Yeah, to me it looks like a plant from some kind of alien planet that shouldn't be here on Earth, which I love about it. Next up on my alocasia list is going to be Alocasia Silver Dragon. Now, I've tried to keep these before and I've not had a ton of success. I will say that the thing that seemed to really screw me over is that I ordered mine online, and when it arrived, it had pretty much all yellowed, so I wasn't really starting with a healthy plant or a good plant, and I haven't had one since. I just kind of was put off by it dying so rapidly in my care, and I'm not going to say it was entirely my fault because it came in very, very poor condition as was. It was kind of just thrown into a box. It wasn't secured anyway, so all the soil had come out of the pot. The plant was being tossed around. There was broken leaves. It just was not a good situation. But when I did have it, I absolutely loved the fantastical look of it, like how fantasy-like the leaves are. They literally do look like dragon scales, and that's something that I really, really love about alocasia. The next category on my list is going to be Hoya. Hoyas are probably in my top favorite category. I love Hoyas so much. They are one of the plants that I lost the most of. So I will say that the thing about Hoyas is that they, at least for me, tend to be a bit more on the fussier side if they're not getting proper care. I find that they are not very forgiving. But despite that, I keep getting more. I love them, and I will always own Hoya. It's probably one of the categories that I own the most plants in, and therefore it is the hardest for me to pick between because I have so many that I love so much. First up on the list, though, is going to be Hoya lacunosa Sri Lanka, I believe, is this variety. And I love these little leaves. They're kind of splashy, and they just look so, so elegant. I love how tiny the little leaves are compared to some other Hoyas. Survived my neglectful plant parenting. So there's that. It is definitely a hardier Hoya. Moving on to the next one on my list is going to be Hoya compacta variegata. I have a few different ones of these because I love them so much. I'm currently propagating some, and these are just such beautiful plants. I do want to get a huge hanging basket someday. They've just not been available for me to purchase, but I do have a couple of small ones that I am super, super in love with. Hoya compacta variegata has been very, very tricky for me. I have had a couple of pots that have died off due to mealybug infestations. I did try again recently, well, not super recent, it was last year, that I got a couple more pots. My boyfriend actually bought them for me for, I think it was Christmas and our anniversary. He had bought me one each, and I am just so, so in love with them. Last up in the Hoya category that I'm going to mention is this Hoya Eddii variegata. I love this. When it's sun stressed, they turn pink, a bright pink. The stems are this really beautiful pink color. It's such an easy Hoya too. I just water it when it's like super dry. It's forgiving. I've let it, go dry and a little bit too much in the past, and it hasn't had any crazy die-off or anything, so I would consider that to be a pretty hardy plant considering the neglect I put it through. But yeah, this one's definitely at the top of my list, and I cannot wait to get a huge trailing basket of it someday. I'm really, really, really on the look for that this year. The Hoya that I'm going to place in first place is going to be the Hoya Eddii variegata. I just love how when sun stressed it turns this really bright, vibrant pink. Mine currently isn't very sun stressed just because it is winter and the sun is not out very often. There's a lot of dark, dreary days, so it's not getting as much sun as it was over the summer, so it's kind of deteriorated in terms of sun stress. But I still think it's an incredible looking plant, and oh my gosh, I just cannot express to you how beautiful this plant is. Next category we are going to jump into is peperomia. I do have quite a few different varieties of peperomia, but this is always a super hard category for me. I have, first up is peperomia angulata. This peperomia is so cool because its leaves harden off and they get super thick, super hard, and they almost feel and look like a beetle, and I love that about them. I know some people have called them watermelon peperomias before because they kind of look like watermelon, but I think they are more comparable to a beetle's back or beetle bug kind of thing, and mine unfortunately is not doing so hot. It did dry out way too much, and so it's kind of suffered a lot of loss. This used to be a really big, full, gorgeous plant. I now only have a couple of live strands, but it's coming back. So the thing about this is that it will die off with lack of water. It does not like to be dehydrated, but it is very forgiving in the sense that once you water it, it will kind of come back to life. It's not super hard to bring back. It just needs proper care needs, or else it's going to shed all of its leaves. Next up on my list is going to be peperomia pink lady. Oh my gosh, there's not enough good things I could say about this. I currently have 3 pots going, and I'm propagating more all the time because I literally just cannot have enough of this plant. I love the pink variegation on it. It's just so beautiful, and the leaves vary so much from plant to plant. Some are very, very bright and vibrant, some are more dull but still really pretty. I have quite a few pots. I'll show a couple different ones here, but super easy plant to propagate, super easy plant to take care of. One of mine is actually quite thirsty at the moment, so you'll notice that it's drooping. So that's another thing that's really great about them, is that they don't necessarily die off right away. They'll droop and let you know that they're thirsty. It's really easy to tell when they need water, so it's hard to overwater or underwater just because they are so, I want to say vocal, but that's not what I'm looking for. Next up on my list is one I don't actually own at the moment. I gave mine to a friend right before Christmas. She was looking for one, and so I had passed it along to her, and it is Peperomia String of Turtles. Now, I love this plant because it literally looks like little turtles. Turtles is something I love. I love all ocean life. I took a lot of oceanography classes for fun, and I just find it to be such a pretty plant. It's also very forgiving. It's very similar to string of pearls and string of hearts in the sense that their watering needs are quite low, and they are very forgiving plants in the sense that they can go a while without water, and they kind of forgive you for, neglecting their watering needs. I will say that they are also very fast growing. They put out these really, really tiny, cute little leaves, and oh my gosh, they are just the most cutest little plants I've ever seen in my life. Next up on my list for Peperomia is Peperomia Raindrop. I actually have a variegated version of this plant, which I absolutely love, but just the base plant in general is like making it to my top 3, because the shape of them is like in raindrops, and I just love rain. It's so calming, so beautiful, and the shapes are just so cute. They're literally like little raindrops, and it's been on my wish list for a long time. They started showing up last year in like big box stores, and so I had grabbed a couple, and that's actually where I found my variegated one too. Another plant person locally had messaged me and let me know that there was one at a grocery store, so I went and grabbed that guy, and I've just been so happy with them ever since. They are super easy to propagate, super easy to take care of. They're not very demanding, and they're very forgiving. On to the next category is Dischidia. I will say that this is a hard one for me because there is just so many gorgeous ones. I think probably at the top of my list is going to be Dischidia Ollanta variegata and Dischidia numularoides. I can't really say it. I don't actually own that plant, but I can show you the Dischidia Ollanta variegata. I own a couple pots of these just because I love it so much and I want to have backups in case something happens. I used to have a really big hanging basket, but I actually chopped it up to make sure that I had backups. And last on my list of Dischidia is going to be this watermelon. And I love this. This is one that will also sun stress really, really nicely in terms of really vibrant, beautiful burgundy red or bright red color. And you cannot go wrong with this plant. It is so pretty. It's so forgiving. I have a little bit of die off at the bottom here from an overwatering thing. My pot doesn't have drainage, which is a mistake on my part because these do not like to stay wet. And I am a notorious overwaterer, which is my bad, but it's still such a gorgeous plant. I'm now going to jump into a category that technically is like a bunch of different cacti just kind of thrown into one category together because I don't own a whole lot and haven't owned a whole lot, nor do I know about a lot of different varieties. So I'm just going to throw all into one category, the cacti that I love. There's not very many cacti that I do own or that I do really, really love, but there is a handful that are on my wish list, and a couple of them I actually got last year. The first one is going to be this booby cactus and this male genitalia cactus. So yeah, I really, really love these two. They are two of my favorite. They were on my wish list for a really long time, and I found them both off of Etsy, I believe, and I was just so happy to add them to my collection. I got them really close together as well, so they're just such cool little plants. They're kind of like a one that I like to pull out as kind of almost like a party favor trick kind of thing to show people. And the third one on this category is going to be this orchid cactus. This guy is actually potentially gonna become a garbage plant. It brought mealybugs into my house and I am not happy with it. It's not fighting the fight too well, and it has spread to one of my epipremnum pinnatums. So we're currently not friends, but I will say I do love this this orchid cactus so much. I don't want the videos to get too long, so I'm actually going to post this in a two-part series. The first part will be going up literally today, so we will see that one, and then the next one will follow up tomorrow with the remaining categories. So I'm going to end this one here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and be sure to check back in tomorrow to see my other categories.